Welcome back to part 2 of the TT podcast, where we ask Steve and Chris, well, I say we, you guys ask Steve and Chris anything. Now, if you've not listened to part 1, head back there and listen to it now. If you're joining us from part 1, welcome back. Steve, we left on a cliffhanger in part 1 of the Ask Steve and Chris Anything podcast. Would Steve, and this is from Paul, would Steve like to do a closed road lap of the TT course with Chris as a pillion?
Only, Paul, if I could zip tie his hands to the grab rails on the back of a sports bike and take him round on the real deal. Oh. I would flipping love to. What do you mean, would I like to take him round?
I think the question should be, Chris, would you like to be a pillion on Steve's bike?
In all honesty, I just said sports bike. Probably not. Probably be something more like an BMW XR1000 that's kind of a sporty chassis, but a little bit easier to ride because sports bikes are tough to ride fast with a pillion on the back. But anyway, the answer's flipping yes. Not just because I want to scare him, but it would kind of open his eyes up and make it easy for him to understand the TT course at some kind of... You'd be nowhere near a race pace, but you'd be flipping fast enough to get a good understanding of the line and how dangerous it can be.
I don't know if I'd have... Yeah.
Would you do it? Seriously?
I don't know. I think I'd sooner ride a bike behind you because then at least I've got some level of control, but I won't be able to keep up with you though.
It would be safer on the back of me.
Do you think?
Than you following. 100%. I don't mean that to be smart. It would be...
All right.
Yeah, because I could go at a very, very fast pace.
Yeah.
Safely.
You could go
than
faster.
Towing you round, because I don't know how fast you can go, you see. But
not that fast.
But obviously I don't like being passenger unless I really know people well, so I fully understand what you're saying. But
No, I trust you. There's not many I would trust, but I trust you.
It's on then. Let's get it on.
There we go. It's never going to happen. My insurance wouldn't cover it. Stephen asks, do the top riders accelerate into the bottom of Bagaro or change down a gear or just roll off while flat out? Bottom of Bagaro, how is it taken, Steve?
The bottom, yeah, obviously you've got to roll. You can't do that on the superbike. I guess you mean superbike, mate, yeah. No, you can't do that flat, top or bottom. It's a very, very, very fast approach. You've been flat out for quite some time, and when you're running down to the bottom, you're kind of trying to anticipate the full load in the bottom because obviously the bike bottoms out to a certain degree, and some people have hit sumps and various other things, but and belly pans, of course. But it's just a case of, you can't do that flat chat. Top of Bagara. We spoke about it earlier about, when I was learning and I was using the full width and brushing the curb sometimes on the exit, but you have to be a little bit careful. I was comfy doing that, to be honest. I just thought it was a line. But however, some of the other guys were slightly slower on the approach and probably faster through the section. But that's all about the learning curve.
So many questions here. So many. Lynn asks, is there a current motorcycle racer that you think would be good at the TT but hasn't tried it yet? Or is there a current TT racer you thought was going to be super good at the TT but maybe hasn't reached or met their potential? P.S. I love the podcast, especially Chris. He's the best podcast host I've ever seen. So that's Lynn. So yeah, is there a current... She didn't say any of that. I just made is there a current motorcycle racer that we think would be good at the TT?
Any MotoGP rider, to start with, if they wanted to do the TT course, would be incredibly fast. The thing is, in MotoGP riders, there are plenty of people that are crazy enough to go fast, but the ones that can control that aggression the most are the best in the world, and that is those guys. However, nearly all of them don't want to touch the TT because of the obvious inherent dangers. But they're full of respect for the guys that ride around there. So casting those aside, there's people, for me, there are people like Richard Cooper, who would be very, very fast around a TT course. He promised his father he wouldn't come, which is, I fully understand and respect that. Another guy who came and walked away was Glenn Irwin. I'm pretty sure Glenn would have, I'm not saying win, he would have been incredibly fast. I said earlier, you need a little bit of luck. Of course, he'd be quick. He's won many races at the Northwest, and around the TT course, he was fast learning. But with a bit more mileage under his belt, I'm pretty sure he'd have been knocking on the door to win races. Yeah, so he's another guy. But there's various riders that are nice, smooth, that race a British Championship, for instance, in the superbike side, that will be very good around a TT course. But you've got to want to come. And if you don't want to be here, then you aren't going to be winning races, because you'll ride around at a comfy pace rather than pushing that extra little bit harder which is what it takes to stand on the podium and win races.
And do we think anyone's not reached their full potential as a TT rider?
Oh, flipping heck. Yeah, Josh Brooks is one.
Okay.
Josh is an incredibly fast rider. He went quicker again 2024.
Yeah.
He rode the superbike, obviously, this year, 24, and went faster. There's more to come from Josh. And I think deep down he wants to win one as well. That's the big part.
So he's not necessarily not met his potential, but he's still working his way to that point.
Oh yeah, he still keep chipping away. Josh is very sensible. He's obviously switched on with the danger side and what else he's got on his plate during the full season. So he'll never overstep the mark. He's an incredibly naturally talented rider, off-road and road racing. And for me, he's got all the ingredients to win a race. He just needs a little bit of luck. He's been on the podium, of course, but not won. And if he wishes to carry on and keep going and pushing at the TT, I believe that it won't take much longer for him to get that little bit of extra confidence and know-how to win a race.
Fred asks, how do riders deal with shadows, changing light conditions and other periods of limited visibility? Are there situations where you just point the motorbike and hope for the best? I think Steve's going to say no, but I reckon that there's a lot of times that they do that.
No.
Come on.
The only time that really happens, mate, is because, Gary Thompson Clark, of course, is very switched on. So if there's any issues with weather, he's not happy to run, which is fabulous now. It should be, because the speeds are so high now. However, of course, when the guys and girls are riding sometimes late afternoon or early evening, there can be some sunlight issues, which you can't police, of course. And sometimes, in my experience with those at any road circuit to a certain degree, there could be, for a split second, a flash in the eye, and you're not quite 100% of your target fixation on a particular point of the circuit, whether it be a tipping in point, an apex or an exit. So there is a little bit of that then, where you kind of go into autopilot instead of, you don't just aim roughly somewhere, you're on autopilot and you trust your own instincts. But that's the only time really, because everybody's switched on now with where they're going around the course. Nobody rides in bad conditions as such, so I would say they're not quite as footloose and fancy free as that.
I think they are. Andy asks, what's your favourite road bike within a reasonable budget that you'd have as an everyday bike? If you say BMW, I'm going to get over this table and punch you. You're not allowed to say BMW. Don't toe the corporate line.
It depends on what... I never toe the corporate line. It depends on what you want that bike for, really. If it's just popping down the shops, then something small. Hey, listen, I love the modern bike. I have a little electric moped, which is great for popping down the shops or for running around a paddock. Great. However, I do a massive amount of mileage, a few trips a year with mates. Knockhill's a big trip for the BSB. We don't just go to Knockhill, we do a big round robin. Navarra for the BSB this year as well. I also do other trips in various places. So you've got to understand that when I say that, those bikes are fully luggaged, panniers and top box and everything else. So they need to be of some substance, plenty of grunt, plenty of power. But I also like a bit of a sporty chassis. I don't want to be on a sports bike, so my because it's free as well, is Chris is going to hate this.
Reasonable budget
is an XR 1000, which you can buy second hand and get something very reasonable. But also, in the past I've been involved with other manufacturers. I love the Multistrada Ducati. I love it. It's a cracking road bike. What else? I've had various adventure bikes from the GS to KTM's Adventure, which is a good package as well. It just really depends what you want. I want a bike with high bars and a good seating position, you see. Not because I'm getting
Not
because I'm just over 40 now, but because obviously doing the mileage. I rode all the way from Caen, just northern coast of France, to Navarra in Spain in one hit, all on small A roads, not on motorways. But on my bike, well, it's not my bike actually, on my XR, I was dead comfy. But my point being is, doesn't matter what it is really, you've got to decide exactly what you want comfort-wise and what you're going to be using it for. If you're doing track days as well as riding on the road.
It's just an everyday bike. Steve, you just said everyday bike.
Yeah, but it depends on what it is,
probably
what size, what.
Maybe a track day once in a while.
I would say the MT series are good. Yamaha,
Ooh, yeah, hello.
Good package, good bike for everyday use. I mean, as well as you can push on and have a bit of fun with, and luggaged up as well. So for me, everybody's different. So a lot of people poo-poo that want a sports bike luggaged up, but you see what I mean. For an everyday bike, it's compared to what you want it for. But for me, that's one that covers all the angles, and you don't mind riding in the wet as well. If it does pee down with raining, catches you out to a certain degree.
There you go. BMW are safe for another year. Go and buy an XR1000. Do you know what I'd have? I've got a little supermoto bike that I just tootle around on.
I mean, great. If you're popping around,
I have no intention of travelling, going anywhere further than probably 6 miles down the road.
Yep.
And you can just have a little bit of fun on it.
I get it, 100%.
Wheelies and skids and stuff.
100%.
Impress the women.
I haven't worked, does it?
No, I haven't. No. It does. Oh, well, it impressed the teenagers. Gives a wheelie, mate. Can't wheelie. Anyway, there you go, Andy. I hope that long-winded affair of Steve and his adventures has given you an idea to go and buy an XR. Are you on commission? He is. That was a nod. Right. Anyway, Jeff asks,
you want to buy one?
At a good price, I will. Warm-up laps. If given the choice, would most riders be happy to drop them?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And for me, I would prefer the TT without them. That's only a personal thing.
Because
I like the idea. I found it really tough to go there and jump straight into a race. I don't think the warm-up lap does anything for you, really. It's great, and it is a really good idea to be able to stretch a chain, do a little bit of making sure everything's right if you've had issues through practice and so on. So I can see the positives, but personally, for me, I thought it was more of a spectacle to just get up out of bed in the morning, wander around the paddock, see your team, make sure everything's ready, get all your gear ready sorted, walk up to the main road when that tannoy announcement comes on, get on the bike, and you've got to be on lap record pace to get on the podium. It's a big thing, and I think it's something that's only the TT does.
On the pipe. However, and we've seen it a few times, riders risk the risk is that if they go out on their warm-up, one, that bike breaks down and they can't get it back, or two, they do break down on a bike that they're not using in the next race, and they're on the other side of the island, and then all of a sudden they've got a massive rush. But it does give you that, it gets rid of that first, probably, even if it's only 2 or 3 miles, of getting your brain up to speed. So as soon as you start a race, your brain's up to speed.
I get that, but I don't believe that's a safety issue. I think it's more of a nerve issue.
Yeah.
Once that flag moves, you're gone,
off.
And those nerves have disappeared.
Steve asks, can you see a time when I don't think you mean you, Steve, when they will put a cap on the top speed of the bikes, as well as we are well over 200 mile an hour now? Would they put a cap on it? A top speed cap? I mean, the answer's no, right?
I think yes.
Oh, they'll put a cap on it?
I don't think they'll put a cap on the speed. However, I think they'll drop possibly the size of the bikes, because pretty much, 2027, we're going to see MotoGP dropping its CC, engine size, sorry, for the speed size, because the bikes are outgrowing the circuits. And of course, doesn't matter what you ride around a TT course, you're not going to eliminate the danger in any way, shape or form. And arguably, you're probably going faster around a corner on a Supersport bike than you are a Super, or pushing harder, should I say, on a Supersport than a Super bike. However, doesn't matter whether you're riding down the street, down your local village, town, or whatever it is, speed kills. So it's a difficult one, because it's not just, obviously, bikes that keep getting faster and faster. There are electronics to control that to a certain degree, but also tyres get better and better, so corner speed becomes higher and so on. So it's a real difficult one to police. You don't want to spoil the spectacle of the Isle of Man TT races either. But to put that into perspective, when I first started riding factory, which were full factory superbikes in 2000, they were about 155 horsepower-ish at the back wheel on the 750 factory Kawasaki's. My Supersport bike in 2008, which is a long time ago now, was 146 horsepower at the back wheel, so very close to the superbikes I first rode. So things move on, times move on, and for sure they need reining back slightly.
So do you think we're at the point now where they don't need to get any faster? We don't need faster bikes now.
100% you don't need faster bikes, no. And I believe the faster the bikes get, the more the more modern they become with electronics and every other system that is now being tested, which some of the guys don't even know what is being tested, but with electronics on rider aids, that the problem with that we see in MotoGP is it makes it so hard to do any passing. I'm talking about short circuit there, but obviously as far as the TT course is concerned, it makes it very, very even to a certain degree and a little bit easier to ride.
Kerry asks, if you could change two parts of the TT course itself, where would you change and why?
I'd probably hire, I'd rent, it would probably take us something like 200 or 300 20-ton bulkers and fill in that big dip at Bray Hill. I flipping hated it, I really did.
So you just have it straight?
Yeah, or maybe a little dip. I didn't like it. Hey, some people love it. We've had various riders on the podcast, and I've asked. Dean Harrison loves it to bits. I hated it. It wasn't as bad on a flying lap, but on from a standing start or out the pits, no, it wasn't for me. I just never felt at ease, and I didn't shut off, but never at ease, never felt comfy. It used to scare me. So that's one of the places I would change. God dear. The 13th milestone. What a horrible corner. I didn't like that in the slightest.
That's before, is that after McGuinness? Is that McGuinness's?
It's in that area. Yeah. pretty much. It's
the left that goes down and
it is. It's a difficult section that's all different cambers and always feels like you should have gone faster, but you're in a whole world of hell if you do.
Yeah.
And it's just, some people like it. It's just horses for courses.
What would you do? Tighten it up to make it slower or open it up?
Oh dear. I'd probably change the cambers slightly. And there's no reference points or anything, or it's difficult to find. It's just, and some of it will be me. Other people like it, and are at ease with it. But whereas I'm good at other places and they're not, it's just, that's the great thing about a TT course, 37.7 miles. It doesn't suit everybody all the way around.
I'd get rid of Governor's Dip and just have them go around the roundabout.
Why?
Just to increase the speed, just so we can see a 140 lap.
Yeah, but it makes Bray even faster. So that's a big no.
Grow some balls, Steve. Yeah, but it wouldn't be that much faster though, would it, really? Well, with the acceleration speeds of bikes nowadays.
If you were brave enough to become pillion, then you'll find out, won't you?
Anyway, Jason from Canada asked this question. I have booked a trip for qualifying week 2025. What things should we do when the racing is not happening? Fan park. Head to the fan park. Get a picture with Steve Plater.
There's various things. First of all, spot on, mate. That's a long trip and a good effort, mate. You'll enjoy practice week. It's a little bit quieter. It gives you a chance to travel around a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got some transport. That's one of the biggest parts, mate, obviously. So you got a chance to go and see the whole island. We had a question earlier on about going and seeing different places and stuff.
However, sorry to interrupt, Steve, the bus service on the Isle of Man is incredible. Let's not pretend that it's not.
I've never used it.
As if Steve Plater asked to get a bus anywhere. When was the last time you ever got a bus?
Yeah,
exactly.
Next question.
My point being that
I've used the tram. I've been on the tram.
Well, there you go. You've got the tram.
Never.
But also, listen, Jason. If you don't take transport yourself or you don't hire a car, the public transport on the Isle of Man is phenomenal. Just FYI. Carry on, Steve. Sorry.
So there's so much to go and see. There really is, and I think the best bit of advice I can give you really is go to the ferry terminal. There's a lovely information centre in there, and they'll tell you everything that you can go and see around the Isle of Man, and then you can make your choices, because there's too much to go and see in even if you're here for a fortnight. So make your choices and go and find it yourself, mate.
You never say the north, though. You never say go to north.
North.
Like go and see Ramsey. Ramsey's lovely.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do.
Derby, go and head up to Derby.
If I was to buy a property, it would be in that area.
Nice and quiet, but you also get a vibe and a feel for the island.
Old feel.
Because everyone always says Port Erin.
Because it's so picturesque.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's just as beautiful up there,
Yeah.
isn't it? Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Jason. If not, come and see Steve while you're over here. Give him what for. Rich asks, what current World Superbike or MotoGP riders do you think could be competitive at the TT? Similar to the question we had earlier, if you think of someone like Jack Miller potentially.
I think, yeah. I mean,
you want someone
realistically,
smooth, don't you?
They have to want to be here to be fast, as in winning potential. You know, they would all be. They would all obviously circulate, and if they wanted to be here and was keen on being on the podium, they would all achieve good high speeds and lap times. But you know, it's a difficult one. It really is, because nearly all of it. I mean, it's like Pedro Acosta. He's a massive. He talks about TT quite often, and there is heroes that are circulating around the TT course. He calls it the number one discipline in the world. But obviously, would he want to come and do it? I would say not.
Now then, interesting question here from Pete. Now that Davey has made the next step to make it the Big Four, in your opinion, how long will this last, and who coming through will be the one to watch?
Difficult question to answer, really, because it's... You'd like to say, yeah. You know, Davey's going to get stronger, not weaker, so he's going to be up there pushing. He's confident with the TT, of course. Now, I'm talking about big bikes. You know, oh dear. We had a question like this earlier about obviously youngsters coming through, but you know, it's a difficult one to answer, because there are quite a few riders that are going fast, but can they raise the bar to the next level like David did this year?
Yeah,
because he wasn't that quick before this year, really.
No,
he was showing potential, but not really on it. So, what's your opinion? You keep your eye on a lot of paces and have a good idea of guys coming through.
I think if Mike Brown can step up, then he's the next one to watch, I think.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought of Brownie, you see.
But I don't think he's going to be there much longer unless he starts podiuming and winning. When we had him on the podcast at the Manx, he was like, I only do this to win. Like, there's no other reason to be doing it. And if I'm not winning on competitive machinery, I don't want to do it. So unless he starts winning, I can see him just going, do you know what, I don't need this, and kind of walking away from it. I don't know. I think, but what I'm thinking of is not who's coming up. Which one of those is going to retire first? Are we going to see of them retiring anytime soon? Because it's not necessarily a youngster's game, this.
No, far from it.
But also, you know, you look at John, still going, still competitive. Dean, Pete, Michael, are they going to want to do what John's doing and continue their career into their late 40s, into their 50s? Or do you think they'll go, do you know what, I've done enough in this sport, I'm off skis?
It's always hard. You know, we have the same sort of question. I mentioned the name earlier, Josh Brooks. You know, he's on the podium, obviously. When Davey won this year, and he's not going to get any slower. He's only going to get quicker. You know, he's experienced a podium that'll boost his confidence, and he could be another one. I know he's not spring chicken, but he's still got a lot of years left in him as far as TT's going. So he could be another one that's going to raise his game again, just like he did at British Championship. So
then do you think that potentially might force John out? Because John, and he's said it a couple of times, the only reason he's still riding is because he's still competitive. He's not just on that factory Honda because he's John McGuinness. He's on it because, one, he's John McGuinness, and two, he's still fast. But if he was finishing 10th, 11th, 12th down the order, he'd wrap it up, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think, of course, you know, I don't know really. John's happy riding around a TT course. If he can finish somewhere up there, he's happy to ride. You know, I mean, you might see him around for a lot longer yet. However, over the longer than the amount of time I've been competing and working at the TT, it's not really work.
Never been work.
There've always been highs and lows in the level of competition and so on, because that's the nature of the business. It really is, you know. And it was, not very long ago, it was all about Hutchie and Michael Dunlop.
Yeah.
And then click of the finger, Hickey appeared, and then boom. Hickey had a lot of years where he wasn't really on the pace at British Championship and dabbling at the roads. And then bang, he came in with a big bomb and is doing a fantastic job from every angle on any bike. That's how quick it can change. It really is.
So do you think potentially we might have seen that in Davey then? Davey's come and now all of a sudden one of those top three might not be finishing on the podium as often as they would. And
changing of the guard.
Changing of the guard, as some
Yeah,
might
of
say.
course. We've seen arguably weakness in Hickey this year. Not British Championship as well as the Isle of Man TT races, but that's the way racing rolls, and everything's the stars have got to align to win a TT, and to be consistent and keep doing it year in year out is tough. Michael's had lean years, but he's also incredibly Michael can ride any bike and turn it up when the chips are down, which is one
turn
of his
it up
best.
when the chips are down. I've never heard that saying.
When the chips are down, obviously, and kind of does his own thing and digs deep.
Yeah,
massively.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how Pete reacts to coming back after what is considered a shit TT for him.
As
good to see him back at the
it's
sharp
like from
end.
that side.
Not that he wasn't at the sharp end though. It wasn't the Peter Hickman we'd come to kind of
no.
To
wasn't
see
the
regularly.
bulletproof Pete.
Exactly. Yeah. Next up, this is a great question from Al. If you could go to any TT in history, which year would you pick?
God, flipping heck.
92. End of.
I would go back and watch Halewood return to the Isle of Man TT.
Watched that anyway. Well, you were there, weren't you? As a 20-year-old?
I'm trying to think of an answer. You caught me on the back foot then. No, seriously, because obviously you hear so much from the older guys about how special and how good he was and so on, which of course he was. But I would just like to go and see him compete somewhere, and there's no better place than the TT, is there? So I think realistically, I raced against Hizzy, I raced with him and so on, and incredible riders and Foggy, but it's just a case of before my era, it'd have to be something like that. Just to look at how things work and how they were then as well, how all the bikes were prepped, turned out, how the competition was, the depth of field and so on,
I feel like I shot my load too soon with that one. Yeah. Although I want to see that, and I would love to have experienced it, probably going back to an era, but all I can think about is Hizzy on that Norton and the sound of it.
Hey, pretty special.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to ride that bike a couple of times.
All right, show off. Oh, Charlie asks, if you had your own team, you kind of have to a degree, Steve, what any two riders from history would you have? Any riders from history in your two-man team at the TT?
I guess that question means any TT rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's imagine it does. So, God, dear, from history in the team... Steve Hislop will be one. I've mentioned the name already, obviously,
Yeah.
I'd have a happy Hizzy in the team because, what an incredible... Oh, dear.
Could be a while, folks.
Yeah, I could step up. Hizzy and Foggy.
You could have put yourself in your own team then.
Nope.
Could have been team rider.
No, Hizzy and Foggy.
Hizzy and Foggy?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
See, all I can think of is
I know what you're thinking of.
All I'm thinking of is having the dream team Dunlops, Joey and Michael in the same team.
Hey, that's a good call. I like that. Yeah,
That'd be cool, wouldn't it?
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was just thinking more past, because obviously Hislop was world class. Mm-hmm. He really was. And Foggy is a multiple world champion. He's won at everything, every discipline. And I've said before, I'm a massive fan. So I suppose really, I suppose those two be top of the tree because Michael's still competing and yeah. I'll stick with that. Hizzy and Foggy, yeah.
What about having a on-form Ian Hutchinson with an on-form Michael Dunlop in the same team?
Oh, flipping out. Yeah, that would be interesting.
There'd be some fireworks there, wouldn't they? It'd be great.
You wouldn't need to watch any racing.
Yeah. I think we'd see a Foggy Hislop 92 battle again, I think, from them two. That'd be amazing. Right, Steve. Sean asks, when Steve was racing, 1. What racer did you get on best with? 2. Which racer did you dislike the most? And 3. Who had the biggest influence on your TT career? Rider, coach, other rider, team manager, whoever.
God, flipping heck.
So go back to the start.
Right,
who did
the
you
first
get
question was, who did I get on the best with
Yeah.
during my career?
Thank you.
I didn't really not get on with anybody. I mean, some people he rubbed up the wrong way through, not around the TT course, I mean, just in general, through the way I rode, but there's nothing ever, it was never anything personal, and I was never had the intention of bullying people. I got on well with most people, really, and, you know, in my time, really, there's a massive amount of Scottish riders, your Jim Moody's and Ian Simpson, Ian Duffer, massive amount, you know, that were aggressive as well, just the same as I was to a certain degree. Well, I haven't answered your question yet. Who did he get on the best with? God, dear. I don't suppose really I had a favourite. But don't get me wrong, once I got on the bike and pulled my visor down, I didn't really want to like anybody. And I don't mean that in a spiteful, over-aggressive way, but I just wanted to beat them.
Competitive.
Socially, oh dear, it's a tough one, that is.
You got no fans, you got no friends.
No, because you got on with so many, and I think in my earlier days, everybody got on anyway.
Come on, give me a bloody answer.
Coming through Supersport and all sorts.
Come on.
There was so many around, oh dear, and that's a tough one to answer.
Well, hopefully the other question should be a lot easier to answer.
Who did I hate the most?
Yeah,
I'll come back to the good one.
Don't sit on the fence either. Come on, give us some.
No, there was a few.
Juicy gossip.
There was a few because some were just
Absolutely
aggressive and didn't mind bumping and barging and stuff, but some was down to kind of opinions or attitude to a certain degree. God, dear. Some were characters. People like, God, dear.
We've stumped him, guys. We've stumped him.
I didn't really hate anybody as such either.
No. You can't be that competitive in that world and not at least hate one or two. Hate might be a strong word. Dislike people.
Yeah, he didn't hate anybody. Dislike, wary of. I suppose really wary of.
Well, that's not the question, but all right. If that's the only way we're going to get you to answer it, he's got someone in mind. He just don't want to say it. They're not listening, Steve. Don't worry. Come on, just tell us.
I suppose really, Philip McCallum was one.
Oh, he said he hated you. Yeah,
I didn't hate him in the slightest. I mean, I get on with Philip now and got on with him all the time, but he was kind of, I suppose he was, I mean, he probably, people say that about me, but I was just wary of him a little bit, even though we never had any issues or problems, but he was kind of, that's more the case, but it's just, I never got intimidated or never let anybody bother me anyway, so it's a difficult one, isn't it? You know, Billy McConnell at Short Circuit, you know, Billy's talked about coming to the TT. He hasn't done yet, and I think he will do. He's another one I was saying that would be quick if he stuck his. But you know, he took me out in 2009 at Silverstone, and you know, hey, listen, we was big mates before, and we're big mates now. But I hated him for a short time then. We were both fighting for the same championship, but you know, it's difficult because I don't really vent any anger like that. I just get on with it and do the business on the track, I suppose, to a certain degree.
Bloody hell.
What was the last question? There was three.
Right. We should have an easy answer out of this one. Who was your biggest influence on your TT career?
TT career, 100% was Mick Grant, because Mick was with me before I even came. He whinged and moaned at me. I was going too fast, too quickly at the start, but quickly realised, you know, I was okay and riding safely. And then when we come through 2009, I had Mick Grant with me, obviously, as he was since 1998 through all my career, which I'm very lucky. But also at the 2009 TT, I had Roger Marshall, who was also in my year working for the HM Plant team, the Honda team, who was bloody brilliant. He really was. More soothing. You had every bit of faith in everything he was telling you, as much for the mindset as anything else, really. Good bloke. He actually works with Ryan Vickers now in the ONG Yamaha team, and great man. Great man in the bar and a great man to listen to.
Hello. Kaylin asks, what is the most interesting thing you have learnt about Michael Dunlop over the years?
I know Michael quite well. You know, I've been teammates with him. You know, we've ridden on some old bikes at, I say old bikes, on the MVs at Goodwood Revival, and obviously I raced against him. Michael and myself lapped the second half of the race when he won his first TT in 2009 in the Supersport. So competitively and socially, I know him quite well. Good guy, but I think it's more the biggest thing you learn about Michael when you get to know him is how kind of easygoing he is, quite when he's in a relaxed fashion, and really good with the fans, and he's quite a heartfelt person, really. Yeah, because I think the majority of the public think he's quite a brash, harsh, aggressive, natured person, but he's far from it.
No, I think over the past couple of years, like I didn't know Michael personally up until starting this job, and I always was under the impression that Michael was trying to follow in his uncle's footsteps the way Joey was, just because he was a Dunlop. But I think it's in his nature to be like that, and I think he's a hell of a lot more friendly and a lot more fun than you expect him to be. I think personally, I really like him. I'm not just saying that. I like him. He's a nice guy.
You sound like you're lying.
No, I'm being serious.
I'm joking.
It was just you. All right, we've got loads. Do you know what? We can't get through all these questions. Let me finish off with the last final 3 questions. Julian asks, given the logistics and safety implications of such a long course, do you think there is a case... I can't believe I'm even asking this question. Do you believe there's a case for shortening the TT circuit in the same way the old Spa-Francorchamps circuit was in the 1980s? Clean your mouth out, Julian. What? I'm sorry, guys. I had to ask the question.
It's the spectacle of the course. Obviously, it was a different length years ago, but 37.7 miles now. I don't believe it's too long. I don't believe 6 laps on a superbike is too much. I don't believe 3 laps on a sidecar is too much. I believe it's the right amount. It's an endurance race. It's a big test for man and machine, as you're fully aware. Obviously, you've got a pit stop every 2 laps to kind of refresh, check the bike and go again. So I think it kind of works well. The loop is perfect. More and more people are becoming interested in the Alaman TT now, so you need the room, you need the spectacle over that distance to kind of look after all those spectators and give them places to watch. And they've all got their own different kind of positives and negatives, all those sectors around, all those 6 sectors, from, for instance, the section going out to Ballacrane, and then especially from Ginger Hall to Ramsey, and then of course from Ramsey coming back home. They're all completely different.
Yeah.
So that's what makes TT course. And why on the earth would you ever want to, or even discuss shortening it?
Well, that's it. You shorten the circuit to a brand new circuit. It takes away the history of the TT that's ever been. But then all you end up doing is putting more laps in around that same little course. So essentially the safety is still the same level of safety.
I understand the question as far as Spa's concerned, because of course I've been lucky enough to go to the Spa Classic, ride around the circuit, and then on Saturday night they open up the fence and there's a police escort around the old course. It was incredible. Barry Sheen still holds the fastest ever average lap, I believe, or close to it, around that course, and it's incredible. It really is. But it does incorporate obviously a circuit as well, which made all the difference. But it was a shame it was shortened, but for obvious reasons. But as far as the TT is concerned, it was all natural public roads, and long may it continue.
My man Piotr, I'm sorry if I've just absolutely murdered that name, Piotr, Piotr, yeah, we'll go with that.
I'm with you on that.
I don't know where this question is going to go, but what do you need to participate in the races at the Isle of Man? Big balls to begin with.
Motorbike.
A motorbike.
Or a sidecar. I think it's a good question. You need everything that you need at short circuit.
You need a special racing licence though, don't you, for the mountain course?
Yep. I don't know what concept this question is really, whether it's asking what you actually need to be able to have all the credentials and everything to ride, or whether it's from the mentality side and everything else. So we'll cover both.
Maybe he thinks he's actually asking Paul Phillips, how do I enter the racing? And
maybe so. Come here. Obviously you need a licence. which you need to go and do some racing first to get your mountain course license, which for instance for me is through the auto cycle here in the ACU, but you might have to go through your own, what name is that? French, Belgium, anyway, for whoever you're going to use. I mean,
no idea.
Yeah, for whoever issues your license, you need to go to them to get an international license, obviously, to cover you around, to get you through to get your TT course license and so on. Then you need to come over and do some laps around with Milky Quail and
Barty.
Johnny Barton to kind of get an idea of how the course is. Of course, you need the usual things. A cracking good little team setup, obviously, because it is very different to riding short circuit. But the most important part is to keep you safe and to make sure you come and learn the circuit and get your head around it, to make sure you come back and go faster and faster each year. But they're the main things, really. You do need to... It'd be nice if you had some road racing experience. It's not... you don't have to have it, but it's always best if you do. But the biggest thing is to come along realistically, to cover the whole picture, is, to be in a relaxed fashion when you're here. To get out there and have no expectation of yourself. Do plenty of learning before you're here to make sure you know what section's coming next around the course, so you can enjoy it more. And then obviously you're going to return and hopefully get competitive in a few years' time.
Yeah, don't rock up on the final week of May and fully expect to get a ride around the TT course on a day entry. It don't work like that.
As he is planning.
Yeah, exactly. And probably speak to the guys in the office as opposed to me and Steve on a podcast. They'll give you all the relevant information you do need if you are thinking about taking part in the Isle of Man TT. Steve, final question. This comes from Andy. And this is, what is your favourite sounding bike to ever take to the TT mountain course? And if it isn't the Norton Rotary, would you like the address of your nearest audiology department? It's up there, isn't it? It can't not be. The
Norton's up there.
Yeah.
Incredible. And not just the TT course. I think the first ever superbike meeting I went to was about early 90s, Cadwell Park, and Ron Haslam was riding the JPS Norton, which was incredibly fast and sounded awesome compared to all the other bikes out there. But yeah, I'd have to argue that a little bit. Even though I didn't hear it race, I rode it myself, which is a parade lap, which is the Honda 6. An incredible sound, incredible bit of kit, but it's a one-off sound and just revs mentally high. And sounds incredible.
17,000, 18,000 revs, was
you
it?
got it.
Yeah, I'd go for any form of a two-stroke bike round there. Probably a 250 two-stroke round there. Oh, maybe even one of the 500s, like the Suter.
Bruce Anstey's Classic T Paget's 500.
Yeah.
Hey, it sounds gorgeous. Hey, there's so many different bits and bobs, but I think realistic, yeah. I think it'd have to be the Honda 6 for me.
So let's go Honda 6, RS250 Honda.
No, RS6. His is Norton.
And then a two-stroke.
Yeah.
All right, job done. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the TT podcast. You are fully enlightened now with all Steve's knowledge from the TT. If you are thinking about most of it. If you've enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button or that subscribe button wherever you're listening to your TT podcasts. Leave us a review wherever you're listening to them. And if you want all the latest news and features, head over to iomttracers.com and check us out on the socials. The handle is Steve at...
Road to point.
At
Tell him. I haven't got a Scooby-Doo.
He has no idea. At TT Racers Official.
And leave us some more questions. We might do another one of these in due course.
As always, Steve, the pleasure is all mine.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, mate.